Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the 5 p.m. podcast. I'm Tina, and as always, I'm here with Dan.
Hey there. You know, Tina, it's January 23rd, 2025, and I've been glued to the news all day. This whole story about Trump pulling the U.S. out of the World Health Organization. It's a lot to take in.
I know, right? It feels like we've been here before, but this time it's different. For our listeners just tuning in, on Monday, President Trump signed an executive order saying the U.S. is officially withdrawing from the WHO.
And this isn't just a symbolic thing. It's like when you cancel your Netflix subscription, but on a global health scale. See, the U.S. doesn't leave overnight. The whole process takes a year.
Right, so we've got this one-year period where the U.S. is supposed to stop funding the WHO and bring back any of our people working there. But the thing is, we're still technically part of it for now. It's like a really awkward breakup.
Exactly, an awkward breakup where the U.S. is still paying for the shared apartment for a year, even though it's moved out all its stuff.
Laughs. Right. Speaking of money, the U.S. has always been a huge financial supporter of the WHO. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars every year.
Oh yeah, I was just reading about this. The Kaiser Family Foundation, they're the go-to for this kind of data. They said U.S. contributions have been anywhere from $163 million to over $800 million a year in the last decade. That's a big chunk of the WHO's budget.
So what happens when that money just disappears? I mean, can other countries even make up the difference?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or, well, the hundreds of millions of dollars question. There's this expert, Dr. Jennifer Nuzzo from Johns Hopkins. She was saying this could create a power vacuum, like in those nature documentaries when the alpha lion leaves and the other lions start vying for control.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. So who's the other lion in this scenario?
Well, a lot of people are looking at China. They've been increasing their influence in global health. It wouldn't be surprising if they saw this as an opportunity to step up.
That makes sense. It's not just about the money, right? It's about who gets to shape global health policy. And if the U.S. isn't at the table,
someone else will be. And that could change everything. Priorities, decision-making, you name it. It's kind of like when your favorite band gets a new lead singer. The music's just not quite the same.
Speaking of music, this whole thing has a bit of a déjà vu vibe, doesn't it? I mean, didn't Trump try to pull out of the WHO back in 2020?
He did. In the middle of the COVID pandemic, no less. But then Biden reversed it as soon as he took office in 2021. It's like a policy yo-yo.
So what's different this time? Why does it feel more permanent?
Well, for one thing, Trump's executive order specifically mentions stopping negotiations on this thing called the WHO Pandemic Agreement. It's this big deal that's supposed to help the world prepare for and respond to future pandemics.
Wait, so we're not just leaving the WHO, we're also pulling out of talks about how to handle the next global health crisis? That seems risky.
That's what a lot of experts are saying. I mean, think about it. The COVID pandemic showed us how important international cooperation is. If we're not part of these global efforts, how effective can we really be?
It's like deciding to play a team sport, but then refusing to join the team huddles. You're going to miss out on some key plays, right?
Exactly. And there's this whole other thing about the international health regulations. Those are like the rule book for how countries are supposed to work together on health issues. Trump's order says we're stopping any work on updating those, too.
So let me see if I'm getting this straight. We're leaving the WHO, which is like the main organization for global health. We're pulling out of talks about how to deal with future pandemics. And we're not participating in updating the rules for international health cooperation. Is that the gist of it?
That's about right. Oh, and remember Dr. Tedros, the head of the WHO? He put out a statement saying they regret the U.S. decision, and they hope to keep collaborating with us somehow.
It's like a polite way of saying, we're disappointed, but we'll try to make this work.
Right? There is a lot of criticism from the public health professionals. Like Dr. Ashish Jha, Dean of Brown University, says that this is a step backward for global health. Also, Dr. Lawrence Gostin from Georgetown University said that this creates a dangerous vacuum in global health leadership.
So where do we go from here? I mean, is there any chance this decision could be reversed again?
Well, like we said, the withdrawal takes a year. So there's a window there, however small, where things could change. A lot depends on how the rest of the world reacts. And, what happens in U.S. politics down the line.
It's a lot to keep track of. But one thing's for sure. This is going to have a huge impact on global health for years to come.
No doubt about it. And we'll be here, breaking it all down. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the 5 p.m. podcast.
That's right, Dan. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.